Hi there, and welcome to part 4 of the Creative Act of Leaving Insomnia. This one works as a standalone. You can check out the other parts another time. For now, let me know if this sounds familiar at all. You are doing all the right things. So you've quit caffeine, you have started meditating, you've bought yourself some nice blackout curtains, some kind of very fancy nighttime routine, because that's what you've heard is really good for sleep. But you're still awake at 2 a.m. in the morning, staring at the ceiling and asking yourself what you're doing wrong. Well, there's nothing wrong with you. You've just been sold a lie. The same was true for me. I was sold a lie. I was sold the lie, or I came to believe that I needed to do more and more and more in order to sleep. And so I did all these things and none of them really helped. Now, today I want to explore how we can break free from this architecture of efforts that you might have built up around the topic of sleep. And before we get started, I just want to make sure you know that I'm not a doctor nor a therapist, and none of this is medical advice. Check the description down below. Let's go. So the sleep preparation trap is really what gets us into these efforts. We're told that we need to have a nighttime routine. It's part of sleep hygiene, what they teach in many different ways of trying to cure insomnia. Now, the problem is, when you're too focused on the preparation for sleep, you might confuse sleep with something else in life, something that requires effort, whereas sleep itself doesn't require any effort at all. And these efforts that we do in vain, we can kind of split into two categories. There's active sleep efforts and avoidant sleep efforts. Active sleep efforts are all the things that you're actively doing. You're, taking a certain supplement, you are following a certain nighttime routine. It could take many forms. It could be drinking chamomile tea. We've talked about this in different episodes. Now, avoidant sleep efforts are things that you're avoiding in order to not disturb your sleep. So that could be avoiding caffeine, avoiding meeting friends late at night because you're afraid it'll get too late and that'll kind of carry over into a disturbed night of sleep. All those kinds of things that you are no longer doing in order to protect your sleep. So now that we know what sleep efforts are, let's see why they're backfiring for you, why they are leading to the opposite effect. The problem is that there's a paradox here. So the more we do to try and sleep, the less we actually sleep. And if we have all these efforts and we're basically engaged in a state of war with insomnia, what happens is that all these efforts just become ammunition for this war, and we build up a lot of internal pressure and hyperarousal. And as we've discussed before, hyperarousal is the very thing that blocks sleep. And it makes us fall into this vicious cycle that looks a bit like this. Fear, the fear of not sleeping, leads to you exerting effort. The effort leads to arousal because now you are kind of uptight about the topic of sleep. Then the arousal prevents sleep, and that lack of sleep the next night just confirms your fear and probably leads you to the confusion of thinking either your efforts weren't enough, you need to do more, or that you're just broken. Of course, neither of these things are true. And if you want to explore more ways of overcoming insomnia and get a really in-depth journey from someone who's experienced it for a very long time, then please hit that subscribe button, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the comments. So what's the solution, you may ask or be wondering? Basically, if efforts are the problem, then the solution is non-effort. We want to do intelligent non-doing, intelligent surrender. And the way that might look is that we reframe the goal for now. Instead of chasing sleep and trying to make that happen with whatever efforts, let's try to chase something that doesn't run away from us, which is rest. If we reframe the goal, rest is way less of a threatening thing if it doesn't happen. And rest is also something that you actually can achieve. So you can have a good time laying there thinking about things that you're grateful for example. You could be reading a book, you could be watching a movie. All these things mean that you're just resting and your body is actually recharging just from not exerting itself. And if you're in that relaxed mode, that's actually when sleep can happen. That's when it most likely will happen. Whereas, of course, the opposite, laying there and being anxious, is when sleep just absolutely can't happen. By not putting sleep on a pedestal, something you absolutely have to achieve at all costs, you take a lot of pressure out of the system and actually make it all the more likely to happen. The paradox here is that the more you are okay with not sleeping, the more likely you actually are to sleep. So this concept is actually called befriending wakefulness. We want to no longer run away from being awake in the middle of the night, but make friends with that state and be okay with it. Because, as I've said many times now, it kind of evades you. The more you search for sleep, the more it runs away. And just see if you have any internal fear within you towards that state of wakefulness, especially in the middle of the night. If it's not fear of wakefulness, then maybe it's fear of the next day. One thing I'd like to do for today is our creative act, as always, and that would be a ritual declutter. What I mean by that is that we declutter all the efforts, all those rituals that you might have at the moment that you think you need to be doing in order to sleep, and let's sort them out. Let's see which ones are fear-based, which you're doing just because you feel like you have to, which ones are neutral, and which ones are actually joy-based. So which ones do you want to keep and which ones do you want to get rid of? My suggestion here is that you get rid of any sleep efforts that are based on fear. So for me, those used to be avoiding caffeine, even though I love coffee. I used to take melatonin, even though it made me feel kind of funny the next day. And I used to wear an eye mask, although I really don't enjoy wearing eye masks. Neutral efforts would be something like journaling exercises, like a brain dump, which is when you kind of write down everything that's bothering you at the moment onto a piece of paper and ideally throw that piece of paper away or tear it up just to process it. Something like closing the curtains before you go to bed, switching off the lights, common sense things. They're not things that are based on fear. They're also not absolutely joyful. They're just kind of neutral. Those are fine to keep, obviously. And turning off your phone and all that kind of stuff. Now, joy-based efforts would be a warm bath, a shower, going for a walk after dinner, watching a movie, things that you enjoy doing. In my opinion, all of those are great. Those are great bedtime rituals that you're not doing because you want to chase sleep, but you're doing them because you genuinely enjoy them. So in conclusion, I want to talk about the new mindset that we want to adopt here. We need to understand that sleep is not something that is earned by you being the best performing sleep ritual performer, the best of the sleep hygiene world. No, it is something that is your natural birthright and that will come to you once you can step out of the way, once you can stop your frustration with sleep not coming. Of course, I understand that frustration, but once we can drop that and let go and trust that everything's going to be okay, doing less, allowing more, and trusting that everything will unfold as it needs to is the key to finding peace with sleep. And I know that process can be challenging. It can be very difficult. There's speed bumps on the way. So if you need any help at all with any of that, I'm there for you in the comments. You can reach out with any question that you have. I hope that was helpful. In the next one, I'm going to conclude this little series and we're going to talk about the path ahead. Just what you can expect when you go on this journey. There's going to be kind of a roadmap that I can lay out for you, and I hope it's helpful. So see you in the next one. Until then, wishing you lots of rest and peace with sleep. Bye bye.